Welcome to another PL Together Lounge Talk. I'm Adam Geller, founder and CEO of Edthena, the video observation platform for teacher professional development. Today, we're talking with Andre Daughty. He is a former classroom teacher who has created a culture in his classroom that once was able to wrangle more than 50 fourth graders all at once. That sounds like some strong culture and probably some strong rules and norms for behavior. Andre, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Well, we have been talking about a few different things, but where we just left off was the idea that the experiences inside the classroom really have a lasting impact on students. And there's an opportunity, I feel, and I think a lot of educators feel, to act today, right? To improve my classroom today. Now, one challenge of this particular version of today is some teachers might be in their living room just like I am right now. They might not be in a physical space with their students. They might feel at a distance or disconnected. So I want to talk about that classroom culture with you. And first, let's talk about the idea of building connections with students, building the relationship. I suspect that you've probably been getting questions like this from educators, like, I can't go in, I can't be with my babies. So what in the world am I supposed to do if I can't meet my babies?
Yeah, I have, believe it or not. I mean, I think every educator has been asking that, like, what are the best ways to connect and to show that you care in a way? What I love about what's happening, I hate COVID, hate everything about COVID. But what I love that I'm seeing happening is that teachers are now getting to see inside of students' lives. They are no longer just disconnecting and saying, I'm teaching you, here's the curriculum. At the end of the day, when the bell rings, you get out, I don't have to connect with you anymore. Like, they are literally inside of people's homes. And so you can see a lot, you can hear a lot, you'll have conversations a lot just based on that. One elementary teacher did exactly that. Saw on the first day of online school and online classrooms, noticed that the majority of her class, the backgrounds did not look the best. And not just based on her, but you saw like dirty clothes. I mean, it's a kid's room, so dirty clothes were here, or dressers looked unkept, or, not pushed in all the way, things like that. And she also knew that her students in the class really didn't want to show their screen. So they were using the platform Zoom. She taught them how to create their own backgrounds. And so that was the first 2-day lessons. It wasn't anything about curriculum, wasn't anything about any of that stuff. Showed them how to create a background using Google Slides, and then said, give me some of your personality, things that you like to do, Google it, take the picture, copy, paste it out of Google Slides, put your name at the top in one of your favorites. So she gave it to the students had a chance to do that. And then she showed them how to upload it, to Zoom, where the students could have their own background. And just from that alone, taught her something. There's a famous quote that I always quote a lot, and it comes from a good guy. His name is Jawanza Kunjufu, Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. And his quote says, if you observe students, they will teach you how to teach them. And in that moment, that's exactly what this teacher did. This teacher saw that one kid loved The Simpsons because it was The Simpsons living room background. Another teacher saw that the student loved Black Panther because it was the Black Panther background. And so now this teacher is saying, oh, I can use that connection. I'm going to connect here. Oh, this student loves superheroes. I'm going to make sure that some of my teaching and some of my connections, I'm going to try to use the connection with Black Panther and whatever I'm teaching and all of these things. If you observe students, they will teach you how to teach them. So if you want to create those connections and make those connections in your classroom, if you observe students, they will teach you how to teach them.
I heard a little bit of challenge to maybe the incoming belief that many educators might have. And I think maybe I'll claim I did it on purpose, but the framing of the question, which is this idea that, you're feeling disconnected. And what I heard here is actually, it's possible to be more connected. Yeah, you may not be able to be in person, but maybe the technology can let you see the students, more of who the students are, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you can see their rooms and consider their home environments more directly than you could consider that before. But also, as you said, like, you can use the technology to learn about your students, to have your students show you who they are, and use that to better kind of connect with them along the way. So maybe teachers shouldn't feel disconnected. They should look for different ways to feel connected right now.
And then, I mean, we're in a pandemic and we're all human. And so we're all constantly adjusting. When you and I were conversing a few moments ago, my son slid in through the back door and he came right into the frame of the view, and he, hand signed to me where he was headed and what he needed to do. I gave him a nod. We kept going. That's happening all the time in education now. So if your little dog does decide to come in during a session, don't get upset at the parent or don't get upset at the student for the dog coming in. Welcome the dog in. Have the dog get in front of the camera. Explain to us, who is the dog? I mean, small things like that. Another student, this student's a high school student, and the student was responsibilities to watch over baby brother, baby sister. So the student was inside of Algebra 2, working hard, Algebra 2, and then baby brother slams in and is like, I'm hungry. And so instead of the teacher being upset saying, who said that? You should mute yourself. No, the teacher was like, all right, go ahead and feed your son, your brother. Come on back in a moment. And the student was shocked, like, I can do that without getting in trouble? The teacher was like, yeah, you're at home. Little man's hungry. Go get little man a bowl of cereal and come back. Just having that space and that freedom, that's building the culture. Another teacher, the teacher was like, if you're hungry, bring you a snack in here. And then the teacher showed it. The teacher popped out, had her drink. She's like, I got my drink here. Had a little snack of popcorn. She's like, I got my popcorn here too. I'm just glad that you are showing up online to come to class with me. So if you are hungry, go ahead and grab you a grape. Eat your grape while we learn. Just make sure you push mute so I don't hear you smacking. But things like that is what helps create the culture, create a connection. Yeah, I know inside of your classrooms you don't normally eat. I get that. But this is a little different time here. And this is what I love about so many of our educators. We are adjusting and adjusting well. So creating a culture starts with that connection and loosening up some of your strict ideas and procedures, where as long as the students can still learn, I think it's all good.
We have that phrase, create a workplace where you can feel like the people in the employees, the team members can bring their whole selves to work.
Yeah.
Create a classroom where the students can bring their whole selves to the classroom. What I hear you saying here is create a distance classroom where the students can still bring their whole selves to that learning environment and celebrate the fact that they are just being real humans with you, and that they aren't having to pretend like they're a student robot, not in the middle of a pandemic, not sitting in their bedroom or any of these other things.
Yeah. I remember this was before the start of this year, but last spring, one of the students I mentor, Zoomed in because, doing weekly checkups. And he said, Mr. Doughty, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, all right, man, let's talk. So instead of me helping you with your work, like, let's chat. What's going on? He lived with his grandmother. And he said, grandma has COVID. And if grandma has COVID, does that mean that I have it and my two baby brothers and sisters? So do all of us have it? But then at the same time, here I am. I still got to do all this work and have it turned in for X, Y, and Z. And I'm stressed. I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know how to take care of my grandma and do the work and take care of my baby brothers and sisters. What do I do? And so the suggestion was, man, let's talk to the teachers and let's talk to the principal. Let's email them. If you need to, CC me on the email, which he did. And once when the principal and the teachers understood the situation, they were like, just turn in the work when you can. And I think that is just the exact same thing happening now. We're still in a COVID. We're still in a pandemic. We still have students who are barely hanging in there. And so to come to class is a privilege. For them to log in, understanding that they still have to take care of grandma, grandpa, or while mom and dad or auntie or parent or guardians at work, it's their job to take care of baby brother, baby sister. Like, we need to make sure that social emotional connection is still there. And that's one of the easiest ways to build the culture. Just treating them like human beings, you know? Treating them like they are young students trying to figure out this pandemic while we as teachers are still trying to figure out this pandemic. It's going to be messy. And so just giving them grace and space to grow. And then vice versa, having the students give the teachers some grace and space, because we're going to make mistakes. Our technology may fail us. I mean, all of these things to create the culture and make that connection, just have some grace and space, man.
You know, it's funny, I in preparing for this segment of our conversation and thinking about classroom culture, in my mind, I had kind of divided it into asking you about how to make connections and then asking you how to engage students. And I don't even think we need to ask how do you engage students, because I think what we really just heard was that whole idea of remembering the complexity of everyone's life, the student and the teacher, and creating the right, I don't want to say conditions, but opportunities, pathways, whatever you want to call it, for more of those people to show up into the learning space. Because at the minimum, what we're going to get is the like, yeah, I'm physically in front of a camera and staring at you, but I might not be mentally present.
Right.
I think that might be the risk if folks aren't thinking just like in a classroom. They have to create the opportunity for people to show up, to really be present, not just physically be in front of a camera.
Agreed. I have a good friend who's a teacher, and that's one of her things. Before we start class and the lesson today, I just want to give you 2 minutes to try your best to mindfulness technique, just to try your best to just pause on thinking about whatever is outside of the frame of the camera. And then she gives them like 2 to 5 minutes to write down the thing that's going to stop them from learning today. And if it's something pressing, she says, please lift it up to us. And so she's got an hour of a class. That first 15 minutes to 20 minutes of that hour is just mindfulness, social emotional learning. If there's something there that's stopping you from learning, let's lift it up. Let's talk it out. What can we do as a community to help? What can we do to help you get into that mind space so that last 40 minutes of class, we can actually try to learn something? And she said there's been several times that the conversation's been so heavy in that 20 minutes, that becomes the lesson. Just teaching her high school students how to push through this COVID, how to push through the unrest of race in America, how to push through all of the adversity that our young students are facing. And that's teaching. That is learning. That is what we want. We want to give our students strategies and ways to cope and to be successful outside of those 4 walls of school. And so I'm really thankful to that teacher for just holding that space. And if there's nobody there, has anything pressing, then there's an extra 20 minutes to teach your lesson, mini lesson, enrichment, whatever. But she holds that space on purpose because she knows that there's going to be days that her students are going to come to class physically, but mentally and emotionally are not there. So yeah, I appreciate you, Adam, lifting that up. That was just a great reminder right there with that.
I'll add one halfway zinger here. You said the 4 walls of school. We'll add the 4 walls of your video chat that you might be having with your students.
Yeah.
Well, Andre, it has been a conversation with a lot in it. For folks that might just be joining us, you should go back. We got a lot before.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Yeah.
But let's close it out with something. I mean, you've already shared about you, but about you, and I'm calling this the extra credit question. And that question is, what's something for you that has changed since the beginning of the pandemic that you hope will continue?
That is how I unlearn how to teach. So traditionally in your mind, you say, when you do a workshop, it looks like this because you want to physically be there. Well, that physically being there may not be there for another year. So now what can I do to still give my full self to people online, whether it be through a webinar or an online workshop or even keynoting? How am I keynoting and giving the same energy as if I would do it face to face? So that's something that I've learned, and I've got a few meetings set up with some platforms to perhaps give me that opportunity to still keynote, but just do it in a way that everybody can see it. So I'm really excited about that, man.
Yeah, that idea of kind of rethinking the value of being in person, that being in person is itself not most of the value. I think a lot of educators are wrestling with that in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Well, Andre, thank you so much for joining us to be part of PL Together. If you are listening to this conversation and wanting to hear all the prior segments that I was just mentioning, or another conversation with another education expert, head to pltogether.org, where we've got this full conversation as well as others. Andre, thank you so much for being part of PL Together.
Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.